Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rob McDonald, and this is Vote of No Confidence back again for a new season of talking Star Wars and from all different sides. And for this episode of Vote of No Confidence, I wanted to start off with a big one because right now I am joined by Ezra from Rebel Watch. How you doing over there, Ezra?
Yeah, hey Rob, I am
jump over my words.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah. I am doing well. I'm excited because it's been a while since I've been on Rebel Scum. It's been over a year, man. I've been trying to get with you and James and everybody over there. It's just been a bit. So, but yeah, doing well.
Yeah, this is going to be the exciting part of it because I want to bring back Vote of No Confidence. I want to try to get a whole bunch of new guests, just talk different like Star Wars topics. Obviously, it's going to become very interesting and very fun soon because Celebration's coming up, so it's going to be I'm sure a lot of news they're going to be to talk about, a lot of Vote of No Confidences to do. And myself, not doing Vote of No Confidence for quite a bit, I'm a little rusty as well, as you heard me bumbling through my beginning there a little bit. This is Vote of No Confidence, and so we wanted to start off with a fun topic and whatnot, and specifically about two races that maybe get a lot of flack and aren't really liked as much in terms of the Ewoks and the Gungans, but we love them here and we want to talk about them. Isn't that right, Ezra?
Yeah, absolutely. We were saying before that there's a lot of shade is thrown at these two, species, and so I'm excited. When you guys first mentioned Ewoks versus Gungans, I was just like, that is, especially the Ewok side of it. I am all geared up to talk about them and the Gungans because they get again a lot of shade thrown at them. So yeah, I'm excited.
All right, so yeah, the way I think we're going to be doing this from now on is we got this little coin right here, and this is actually going to decide on it. So in going into these arguments, we just kind of know both sides of it all. So I'm going to flip this coin right now, and let's say this is a nice little Canadian 50-cent coin right here because we here at Rebel Scum are based out of Canada. So we got this 50-cent coin. I got the heads, and I got the tails. So I'm going to flip it right now. Let's say heads is Ewoks, and that will be... I'll be flipping for you, so whatever you get here.
Okay.
So we'll just find out. And I got the heads, so you get the Ewoks, I get the Gungans.
Wow!
So there you go.
Goodness.
You got what you wanted, buddy. So you know what? You're the guest here. Let's guests first. You start off, man. Tell us about the Ewoks. What's so great about them? And I'll talk about how bad they are.
Well, I really lucked out there because I was sweating bullets here thinking, because Gungans are just not my forte. I like them, and I think they need to be well represented. But also, if I must, our Ewok friends get thrown all that shade. Never forget that the Ewoks were there in the originals. They were there. Without the Ewoks, where would we be? Like would the Rebel Alliance, would they have prevailed? So... That's one of my major points is just that they play a huge role, in all of this. And I actually, just real quick, if you don't mind, I kind of grew up, the way I got into Star Wars was actually through Caravan of Courage. And I loved watching that film and found out that there was Battle for Endor, kind of kept watching that. And unfortunately, when I was a little bit older, I found out about the cartoon series. I didn't get a chance to watch that growing up, but I'm still a big kid, so I went back and was able to watch, some of the old Ewok cartoon series. So, there for a while it was actually pretty, popular among kids and things. But are we, by the way, I think we said, do we want to start off with because here's what I was thinking. Ewoks versus Gungans in just on a battlefield. I'm thinking just put these guys on a battlefield and what would happen, if they had to... battle it out sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that's a fun way to start it off. You set up the Ewoks are really cool. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff, I think, in terms of just watching Return of the Jedi, especially as a young kid. You just look at the Ewoks, I guess they're just these, cute little teddies and whatnot, right? In a lot of ways. But then you got the Gungans here on the other side, right? So if we're looking at this battlefield, we're looking at, I guess, the one side, there's the Ewoks, there's Chief Chirpa, there's Wicket, he's there on one side. But then you go to the other side, and you got the intimidating force that is Jar Jar Binks on that side. You never know what he's gonna do. He'll bumble through those Ewoks just here and there, and just you got Captain Tarpoles as well. You got Boss Nass won't be on the battlefield, but he'll be cheering on the crew. You'll hear Boss Nass in the background. He'll be making his sounds and whatnot. He'll be the intimidating sounds off the side from the battlefield. So yeah, you got the Gungans. Obviously they got some cool tech and whatnot, right? Like from the boomas and all that. Yeah. So yeah, we're looking at the one side. We got the Ewoks, and then we got 4 feet higher on the other side are the Gungans. So yeah, it'll be an interesting fight, especially if you just. I want to. If we're looking at this fight and we're looking at it cinematically, I want to see that moment where Wicket and Jar Jar Binks lock eyes, and Wicket has to lock eyes with Darth Jar Jar because you never know what he's gonna do.
Oh man. Well, okay. So here's the thing. I'm thinking, first of all, where are we? I mean, if we were fighting on the Forest Moon of Endor, it's a little different setup, right? If it's on, I mean, if these Ewoks have to go into water at all, they're screwed. They're screwed. It's not going to work. So it does depend on where we're at. Are we on a neutral battlefield? Or are we on like a open plain? Or is there a chance for the Ewoks to do some of their surprise attack situation? I feel like the setting of the battle is a big question mark.
Well, yeah, if we're talking about that point, I think no surprises, I would say. Like, there are no surprise attacks. There's just, again, two sides of the armies just, going head to head. But, yeah, in terms of terrain, I mean, that's interesting because I'm pretty sure, I mean, you're the Ewok expert, but do Ewoks, they don't have any way of traveling through space, am I correct? They don't have, a space,
right.
wagon or something, do
right?
They?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there is an Ewok that recently we were reading. Mike and I were reading what was that book? I think it was Last Shot, and it's the one with Lando and Han Solo, and this character that totally surprised me shows up, which is Peekpa, this Ewok like technician. And I'm like, what the heck? Did the Ewoks get the ability to leave the Forest Moon? Like what happened? I mean, so you've got Peekpa out there running around, but you're right. I don't know that they have the ability, or even with the desire to leave. They're kind of, I would say they probably got a little shell shocked, from the Empire showing up there in 6. But I mean,
yeah, They seem to be ones that are very protective of their land. Like I think they just like their land. They're not really ambitious to go off anywhere else, I guess. Gungans are probably in a similar way. I guess Gungans are a little bit more tech savvy. They have a little bit more technology than they do. And I'm not even sure if the Gungans have ever left Naboo in order to fight in other battles and whatnot.
Right.
So. But either way, let's say, what do you think? Like a nice, forest, like a field terrain or something like that, right? Like similar to perhaps in Phantom Menace when the Gungans fought the battle droids.
Yeah, as long as there's some forest.
Maybe a couple
more trees, and maybe on the outskirts of this opening, we've got some, because my Ewoks need a way to flank the Gungans. You know what I mean? They need a way to get through those trees and kind of flank them. Because you're right, on an open battlefield, I mean, the Gungans put up that plasma, that shield, and what do we do? You know what I mean? And I'll tell you what we do. Actually, I'll tell you what we do. Logray and the Council of Elders would summon some of that Ewok magic, if we're allowed to use a little Ewok magic. They would. I don't know how it would work, but I feel like there's something, in their arsenal that they could call upon to maybe bring that shield down or somehow infiltrate the Gungans there. So.
I will give you credit with the Ewoks. I feel like they would probably figure out a heck of a lot quicker than the battle droids did that they can't go through those shields. I feel like they would throw one rock at it and see that's not going through, and they'll be like, oh, okay, let's just go up and try to walk through it. It seemed like it took the battle droids a fair bit of time to realize. They probably used like half of their forces just trying to bust through that shield. In Phantom Menace. Yeah,
they did. Well, and I was thinking too, like, what does it look like with the Ewok and Gungan in hand-to-hand combat? Because, at that point, I mean, it's like it's such a weird, thing, because you've got these, as you say, the Gungans are probably 4 feet or 3 to 4 feet taller, right, or something. I mean, the Gungans are pretty tall, and I feel like they got length on them, but we've also got like the Ewoks. Maybe, I don't know. It also depends on numbers. If you've got more Ewoks, versus a smaller Gungan force, they could maybe overwhelm them. Kind of. I don't know. But they can also still shoot from a distance. You could still shoot bow and arrow. They've got those. They've got their spears. But like the Ewoks' main strength, I feel like sometimes is either magic or their ability to lay traps. And to have sort of, but the problem is if they're on a battlefield like this and it's just like one force versus another force, coming at each other, that is where we're gonna kind of struggle. I think we haven't had a chance to, lay any booby traps or anything. So, be a little tough.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I would need to say that. Yeah, we would need to have some trees in there because the Ewoks need to have something. Because if the Ewoks were going head to head against the Stormtroopers in Return of the Jedi, just straight on the battlefield, I don't think as important as they were in that battle, they probably wouldn't have prevailed as nicely as they did.
Yeah, I think it was their ability to be kind of camouflaged. I mean, they kind of blended in with their environment, and then they had a wide array of just different traps and devices and catapults and things set up, but yeah. And here's a question too. I was thinking about that when you were talking about the idea that they would throw a rock at that plasma shield. Would a rock actually go through the plasma shield, do you think, or was it only lasers that wouldn't go through? Because I was wondering, maybe if we did throw some rocks, maybe they would, since they have that density, maybe they would get through. I don't know.
Wow, that's a good point. I mean, the rock is probably just as because the fact that the battle droids themselves could walk through, and they're all metal or steel or whatever they are, some type of steel compound.
They might.
And the rock might go through too. That's right. I mean, we you know what we need to do? We need to tweet George Lucas after all this and just say we need to straight up ask: would a rock go through the shield of a Gungan shield? Because I think we really need that question answered in order for this battle. But I think in general, this is a really fun to think about from the battle perspective. But let's just talk about, because again, you mentioned at the beginning, right, about these characters and how they're kind of maligned by some people, right? People don't like Jar Jar. People don't like the Ewoks. So just talk about these characters specifically. So about Wicket and whatnot. Right. So or whoever.
So I mean, I think I'm gonna pull it out right now. This is the what I was gonna call my power move. I was gonna say trump card, but I'm not gonna use that phrase. We'll go with my power move here.
Can't use it anymore.
It's done. Don't want to use it. We were talking about Celebration too, and what we see at Celebration, and what's crazy is that I'll never forget when I was first there and I saw this several booths that just were dedicated completely to Ewoks. And I'm hoping that we have somebody out there who also has a large, Gungan supply or whatever, because I kind of like the, droids, Gungans, Ewoks, that sort of, I don't know, that the weirder side, or I don't know how to explain it, but just, the creatures. There you go. So I like that side of it, and I feel like it was so cool to me that someone there valued them enough to have a whole booth set up for them, because a lot of times, Ewoks have just been written out. There's no more, every once in a while it's they'll bring in someone, like I said, Peekba, or they'll talk about, I think the Ewoks are now therapists is something that they were talking about in Aftermath, or I forget the series, but they were talking about their role in the galaxy, and it's just, they're kind of shunned. And I wish that wasn't the case, just because I thought they were great. I mean, and like Wicket, I feel like we had so the two movies, Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor, as a youngster, and just even my niece, who I've shown those to, loved those movies. I know they're not the greatest, but they're cool. They're kind of another side to Star Wars. And when I think of, George Lucas talking about how Star Wars is for kids, that's why the Gungans are there. That's why the Ewoks are there, and the droids and so on. So, I feel like they're underappreciated, and it's that lighter side of Star Wars that you need to kind of balance out some of the heavy stuff that's going on,
No, it's a good point there, actually, because, come to think about it, Star Wars is, a lot of ways for kids. George Lucas has said that. And really, in terms of Star Wars, aside from in the main movies, young Anakin in Phantom Menace is almost the only like lead character that's a youngster, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody that a little kid could say that that's me in Star Wars, right?
That's
like
important.
a little kid might play with the lightsabers and whatnot, but they can't full on relate to maybe somebody like Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon Jinn and whatnot. But those movies, it was a young
Right.
lead, right? Like the little kid, I forgot the little girl's name. You'll perhaps remember the little girl who had her family killed in the second one and was on the first one. Sindel, that's right. Yeah, her. That was a lead character right there, just for.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
and whatnot, and. Mm-hmm. And yeah, in terms of the Gungans themselves, right? Like Gungans have been around obviously for less time than Ewoks, right? So Ewoks maybe have had more stories to be told, like legend stories, I guess a lot of times now, what they would consider it. But still, like Gungans have had several episodes that were devoted to them. For example, in something like Clone Wars and whatnot. So you got to find out a little bit more about them because. Phantom Menace happened. Obviously, they were a key part of Phantom Menace, but they were kind of pushed to the side after, right? Aside from a couple of lines in Attack of the Clones from Jar Jar, they were pretty much just not seen anymore. And the funeral for Padme at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So, just in general, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from somebody like Captain Tarpals, right? Like, get a little bit more of that relationship between him and Jar Jar, because obviously they had like a standing relationship beforehand. So that would be something cool to just have seen a little bit more from, and even like more from Boss Nass. Like I said, like in this battle, he's the thundering voice in the background, right? Like he's the one. It's like if the Ewoks beat these Gungans, they want to go for Boss Nass next, because he's been talking a lot of crap on the sidelines.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, another thing too. I feel like when. And this is where I feel bad for the Gungans, because like everyone just threw so much shade at Jar Jar. Like I feel like if you take some of the main characters from the Ewoks, so if you take Wicket, and even Logray and some of those others, as a group, maybe they were kind of, people kind of saw it as weird and just unrealistic. These teddy bears end up, beating back the Empire when the rebellion couldn't. But like the Gungans actually were kind of set up to be pretty cool with all that plasma reservoir that they had underneath them, the underwater city. And we let like one character kind of ruin that whole group, because I mean, it would have been neat to see them in other roles and other capacities. But yeah, it's like after Phantom Menace, they were almost just shunned. They had to bring Jar Jar in for, the, some of the as a representative, later on. But man, I don't know. I feel like they let one character really kind of just, I don't know, ruin Gungans, and it's just not fair, really, in my opinion. So,
no, I completely agree. Yeah, like just people's hate for or dislike of Jar Jar, and I feel like it's turned a little bit ever since then. I feel like in like the early 2000s and like the late 90s, like a lot more people seem to dislike him, and it's like just over the past couple years, ever since almost like the Disney buyout, like things are just starting to turn a little bit more in favor of the prequels in general. I feel like to the Gungans as well. But yeah, you got a very good point there, because it's like their hate of Jar Jar just clouded that the Gungans could have been pretty cool, like and to explore more about the Gungans, more characters in that universe.
Yeah, it's also kind of
in that city.
It's I would say too, like the longer we're away from the Ewoks, they seem cooler, and then like the longer we're away from the Gungans, it's like they weren't that bad. It's funny how like over time people look back and they're like, I don't know, maybe we overreact, and I kind of feel like, not to go in a different direction here, but like that may happen with the sequels eventually sometime down the line. People may say, you know what, all right, let's not, knock them as much as we do. But anyways, I over time, like the Gungans are more recent than the Ewoks, and they have brought in, actually, I think Jar Jar Binks is in the new canon book somewhere. I can't remember where he was at. I was one of the.
I heard this too. I've kind of fallen off on the canon books because I'm just like I've gotten a little bit turned by it, where it's like some of the stuff is canon, but some of the stuff isn't canon, and I was just like, oh, okay, now I'm not. Now I got turned off a little bit because of that part. But I heard about that too. That Jar Jar does show up in one of them. I'm sure somebody's literally, as we're speaking right now, writing something in the comments. It's like, it's in this book, you dummies. You guys forgot. But in general, I mean, we've gone to a really cool discussion, I think, about Ewoks and Gungans. And I literally want to see, aside from our corrections in the Gungans, just somebody like staging out the fight and seeing how it would go. Like, you know, if it was, you know, again, 4 feet taller the Gungans are, so maybe 600 Ewoks versus 500 Gungans. Just see how that entire fight would go. And yeah, if we're putting Darth Jar Jar as canon here, then I'm liking my odds.
Oh, that's funny. Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, it's been great talking to you here, Ezra. We'll definitely have you back for another one of these episodes. Again, a lot of stuff's going to come out in Celebration, so we'll talk more, and we'll also have your partner in crime. We will do the team match. You and Mike against me and James. That will happen. I'm just telling you right now. That will happen, and that will be a slobber knocker. I think, if I'm going to borrow from Jim Ross from WWE a little bit there. So yeah. Thanks for being on this episode, Ezra. Do you have anything that you want to plug?
Well, I just want to say thanks again. You guys are awesome. We always appreciate, your guys' content comes out all the time, and it just, you guys are, I don't know, I feel like we've recommended you guys on our podcast before over on Rebel Watch, so, just, it's just nice. I think we have similar thoughts on the films and just it's your guys' positivity that I love so much, just positive about even in a vote of no confidence. I hear you at the beginning of every episode talk about there's a lot of negativity, and even though we're kind of going back and forth between two species, it's I think it's a cool conversation to have, and then show folks that, like, hey, you can be on one side of a topic but then still appreciate Star Wars as a whole. So I really appreciate what you guys do, and you can check us out at Rebel Watch podcasting. So
yeah, I think it's super important to just be able to have these discussions without name calling or talking that somebody's dumb or somebody's stupid and whatnot. Like, there are, I'm sure at both sides in something like The Last Jedi, there are good things to talk about and there are bad things to talk about. It's just about meeting the middle and talking about what you love, because at the end of the day, if you're passionate enough to hate The Last Jedi as much as you are, then you're passionate about Star Wars, so you love Star Wars at your core. That's a
good point.
So again, thanks for being on this episode again, Ezra. And again, we will have another episode coming up soon with Vote of No Confidence. So check on out for more of that. And aside from that, thanks for watching, guys.
Hey, scumbags. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.